Welcome, one and all, to the Stock Up Podcast YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing another deck build here with you all. So, the theme of this deck is going to be, well, bad dragons. I really wanted to build the deck with one of the Elder Dragons, and I really like the art on this one. I like the theme. So we're going to try it. I call it Bad Dragon because I don't think this card's very well designed. It basically has conflicting, desires it imposes on you. On one hand, it's a 5-mana 5/5 flying haste dragon, so right there, that's like the big power of the card. So I think actually the correct way to play this, if you wanted to have the highest win rate, would be to put it in the Boros dragon deck with Momo and lots of dragons. Of course, then the ability on the card would be pretty much useless. But if you put it in a deck, which I'm going to try to do, with lots of expensive instant sorceries, like I'm thinking, Jeskai Revelation, then you don't actually have that long to pull off the miracle, because, well, if it stays in play, your opponent's going to lose because you're attacking them with a 5/5 flyer. And a lot of the time it won't stay in play because it's a 5/5 flyer that could kill your opponent really quickly. So they'll try to remove it. I really wish it was a 2/7 ward 4 or something. That would be a much better design. 2/7 vigilance ward 4, and it had this ability. That'd be a lot sweeter. But we got our Dragonologist, we could give it haste, I guess in theory, or we could give it hexproof rather. I guess in theory we could just leave it back to block, use its ability. It's not too bad. I just really want to build an Elder Dragon deck, and there's I think this is the best one. Silver Quill's not very good. Brimari's too expensive. Witherbloom sucks. I guess there's Quandrix. Wait, is Quandrix actually better? Okay, hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Good dragon. Welcome to a Stock Up Podcast YouTube channel video. We're going to play with the good dragon, the Elder Dragon, Quandrix the Proof. So, it's a big 6-mana 6/6 flying trample, and when you play it, you get to Cascade, and then also you any of your instant sorcery spells you cast also have Cascade. So you can put this in a deck with a lot of instant sorceries. It works really well with Dragonologist because Dragonologist can find it, and then also it can find instant sorceries. And then when you play your big 6/6, it'll be untapped, and it'll have hexproof, so you're more likely to get another turn with it to start cascading some more. So that's the theme of the deck. I want the deck to be spell-based and not creature-based, so we're going to need to be a removal-based controlling deck, I think. So we have to decide what other colors we want. Blue-green can't really do this on its own, and standard is going to need another color. So we could play white, we could play red, we can play black. I think what I'm going to do to start is I'm going to look at the 5-mana instant sorceries that'd be good to hit off of this, and ideally instant sorceries, right? Because they just fit well with these cards. So Deadly Cover Up works kind of nice because you can cast Quandrix, you can cascade into it, and then you can cast the Cover Up in Wrath, and then the Quandrix resolve. So that's kind of nice. And the same thing wouldn't work with Ultima, funny enough, because it ends the turn. Meritus, sure. Another thing is I think I want this to be a Cavern of Souls deck because we're just tapping out for a big expensive dragon. So, we might not be able to play a lot of Cavern of Souls, right? But some dragons would be good. So there's not a ton of options. There's I kind of like Splatter Technique. Deal 4 to everything. Draw cards, and then I get red removal. The other benefit to playing with dragons in your deck is you can get some certain dragon payoff cards. For instance, I think I'm going to play with Dispelling Exhale. This is a pretty strong counter spell if you actually have the dragons for it. Probably want more than 3. Marang River Regent actually sounds like it works pretty well in this deck. We're going to have Cavern of Souls and maybe some ramp, so just jamming it on turn 6 is kind of nice. And then the Coil and Catch mode would be good. I mean, it triggers Quandrix, you can hit a Dragonologist or whatever if you have that in play. So that seems pretty reasonable. Maybe, maybe we don't need 4. The only other good black or dragon payoff is Caustic Exhale. Yeah, because this one we just have Seer. Seer's just better than that. So, yeah. Oh, these are kind of interesting. I could hit this off of Quandrix. I could also ramp with it. Man, this card, yeah, every time I look at this card, I've had this problem before, right? I think it might be good, and then I read it and then realize that you have to get 2 basic forests off the first mode, and it's like, who wants to put that many forests in their deck when they're trying to play 3 colors, you know? This would be okay. It's like a removal spell. Sugu Wilding. Yeah, those cards are okay. I think I'm gonna go with black, since we have Exhale and Deadly Cover-Up. And, you know, Sultai works pretty well in Standard. I do want some ramp, and that's pretty much what green is going to provide anyways. So I think I'm going to try Shared Roots. I like that it's an instant sorcery. I like that I can play it, you know, before Dragonologist. You know, if you're in a pinch and you need land, this only finds its sorceries or dragons. Maybe you can take a Shared Root some of the time, and that'll be good enough. Yeah. The other ramp that's good is like the Mana Rock, the Cornucopia, but you can't find it with Dragonologist. It doesn't trigger the Quandrix. Might still be okay. Although, I think I want to look at the mana base first, because I know the mana base is going to be kind of restrictive in that I want some number of Cavern of Souls, and I also probably am going to play Biblioplex just because it's, you know, such a good card. And Biblioplex can help me cast Shared Roots, but it can't help me cast Cornucopia, and I think this is going to be like kind of a green splash deck, but it's going to have the trouble of like we're going to need green early. So we're going to need like, you know, probably want 15 sources. And if, you know, 3 or 4 of those sources are Great Halls, and then Cornucopia is not particularly castable. So the other card we could potentially play as a ramp spell is Furdock Core, just because it's colorless. So we could always cast this, and then it's a dragon. So these will always be live if we have one in play. So that's kind of reasonable. I don't know if I want that much ramp, but maybe. But yeah, let's look at the mana base and see kind of what's possible here. So like we need green on turn 2, so let's look at the green lands. Obviously, we're going to need at least this many basics, I would say. We don't really have double green, but I still probably want a forest in case I want to get another green with Shared Roots, although honestly I might not need a forest. I would say this is optional, because we could just have green from other sources and then always search for blue and black, because once we have 1 green, that's all we need. Although I suppose if that green came from Great Hall, then we couldn't cast Quandrix, so sure, yeah, we probably want forest. Yeah, the other options, so something like Deathcap Glade, or the other blue-green one, the Dreamroot Cascade, would normally be good in a Sultai control deck like this. But you have to think that I want all my green sources to be able to cast roots, because this card is like very good on turn 2 and basically much, much worse any other time. So if I have this in my own hand and a land, I really want to be able to cast it. And that locks me into having to play this on turn 1 to be able to cast it. So I can't peel it on turn 2. And, you know, if I have a land I want to, like if I want to play a turn 1 Exhale or something, I can't. So these would probably be acceptable in small numbers, but not ideal. Just things like Breeding Pool, I think, are going to be better, because you could also play this on turn 1 tapped, but then you could always play it on turn 2. Like, Overgrown Tomb, honestly, seems kind of perfect, because you could play it on turn 1, shocked, if you need to use your Exhale, and then you can use it to cast Roots as well. We do need some blue for Exhale also, or Dispelling Exhale, so we're going to need more blue for sure. The Wastewood Verge is pretty reasonable. It's always going to cast Shared Roots onto, so a couple of those are probably the next best black-green land. Something like Blooming Marsh is okay, and I would certainly play it if we were desperate, but I think we don't need it, because, you know, we're going to be playing into the late game, and we're going to need untapped lands going late. Watery Grave's pretty nice. You don't really want a ton of shock lands. I usually don't want to play more than like 8. It's just kind of a lot of shock lands. Well, if I have to, but Gloomlake Verge, it's okay. It doesn't cast either of these things early, which is pretty important, but it can cast Dispelling Exhale early, and then we are a blue-black based deck, so just having lots of blue-black duels is going to be important. Restless Reef is not super ideal in our deck, but it's just kind of a good like win condition, and it's good against the demon decks and whatnot, so I kind of would like to play it. I don't know if I have that luxury. So let me look at the sources here. This is only 13 green to cast Roots, so I kind of want 2 more. I've already got 6 black-green duels, so I should probably add some blue-green duels. Like I said, I don't really want more lands that shock me, so at this point, I might be interested in Dreamroot Cascade as something I can just play on turn 1, or Hedge Maze. Now, the benefit of Dreamroot Cascade is that it comes in untapped later in the game. The benefit of Hedge Maze is it will turn on my Verges, which I have a good number of, and then, you know, the Surveil can definitely matter. I kind of like having a couple Surveil lands, to be honest, so maybe I just play a couple of those. I do think it would be reasonable to play Dreamroot Cascade in small numbers, but then again, I could always just go for the blue-green Verge also, because, I mean, having blue right away is fine, because it's like Dispelling Exhale and Dragonologist, which is the other thing. I have to make sure I have enough blue for Dragonologist, since Great Hall doesn't tap for it, so this is 4, 10, 11, 12, and how many lands total is this? 27. Huh. Yeah, we're gonna need more blue. I guess some of the time I'm gonna cast Shared Roots on turn 2, which would give me a blue for Dragonologist. So maybe like 13 regular blue sources would be okay for that. And this is 12. So yeah, maybe I just play like one Willowrush Verge. I wouldn't want a lot of these, right? Because it can't get the green early in a lot of combinations. Like if I have, you know, Cavern and Verge, or blue-black Verge and blue-green Verge, I can't get my green. The other thing is, like, this would give me 4 tap lands. Maybe that's too many. I mean, I don't really need Reef, right? I've got plenty of winning conditions. Plus, if we're going to be ramping, you know, some of these lands are going to be... we're going to have too many land a lot of the time, so our lands that do something is nice. I mean, we do have Great Hall. I think I might cut a Great Hall and a Reef. And we need 26. Let's try this. This is 12 blue for Dragonologist. But it, you know, if you count roots, that helps. It's going to help us cast it a lot of the time. So it's kind of like 16 in a way. This is 15 for Shared Roots on turn 2, which is pretty nice. It's 15 blue. Plus without Shared Roots, and then with Shared Roots, you know, it's kind of like a lot of blue. And it's 16 black, which is, you know, that's nice because you can cast black cards early. How many ways do I have to cast Caustic Exhale turn 1? I have 11. That's pretty good. You know, it's not the best, but it's okay. So yeah, I think this is a reasonable start for mana base. We can change it later if we want to. But this kind of lets us know what we can do. Basically, like, double color cards early are going to be off the table, but anything double color late is pretty fair game with Shared Roots. So I have to decide on more cards I want to play. Probably play more. Like, I can either play a 4th Exhale, or maybe I play, like, a Hex. Hex can gain life some of the time. It can kill tokens or creatures like Chocobos that get out of size of Exhale, so that's kind of reasonable. I wouldn't mind playing another Omen Dragon, because this is only 6 dragons. I wouldn't mind getting up to like 8. I've got the core. 8 or 9, this seems reasonable. This is kind of nice because, you know, I can play it on turn 4. It's got Ward, or it can have Hexproof with Dragonologist. It can be found with Dragonologist, just like these. I guess if I cast Cover Up and hit Regent, that's not so good with the Quandrix. But, like, if I have the Quandrix in play, I can use this, like, modally to get what I want. So I found this card, I played with this card before, and it's actually, like, inherently very strong. I think I'm a little worried about it in this metagame. All the green decks probably outsize it pretty quickly. But we do have some ramp, and it's kind of decent sometimes to kill otters in some small boards. So I'm like, maybe it should be more like this, you know, 4 Cover Up 1 Regent. But I think I'll start with 3 and 2 just because of the Dragon Synergy cards and whatnot. Other than this, I kind of want a little more card draw. Probably I just play 4 Marangs, right? Pretty sweet card. One of the things that Shared Roots lets you do is it lets you go a little heavier on 4s, right? Because you're going to be ramping into them. In fact, actually, I might play more 4 mana cards. So Lessons from Life is kind of reasonable in that it can ramp us into Quandrix some of the time. Like, we could literally go turn 4 Shared Roots, turn 3 Lesson from Life, turn 4 Quandrix. That's pretty strong. Maybe instead of Furdock Core and like 1 Marang, I play 2 of these. This is a 4 mana sorcery, so I don't love that. Marang's probably better. It's an instant big dragon. Yeah, alright. We're not going to play it over a Marang, but I think it's reasonable to do that. And then I could play some number of Stock Up, of course. Oh, and also I could play Rakshasa's Bargain. So this is like a really good card draw spell that's available to you if you play Sultai. Interesting, it costs 6, so like if I were to coil and catch, I wouldn't be able to hit this. But I wouldn't necessarily want to hit this, like if I have Quandrix out, because coil and catch is already drawing me cards, so I'd kind of rather hit like a Dragonologist or a removal spell or something. Whereas if I have Quandrix and I play this, then the Cascade will be 5 or less, so it can hit something big, like a Deadly Cover-Up, Lessons from Life, Scavenger Regent. I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I'll play a couple of those. It's like a nice instant speed card, go with Exhale and whatnot. Also, I don't have any life gain in this deck. So what cards could I play that could gain life? Because like I've got a decent amount of Shocklands. I'm going to control deck. Being able to gain life control decks is really important because you can get into spots where if you take too much damage early, then it can be harder to control the game because your opponent has more options to like burn spell you out or pressure you in certain ways where you have to make unoptimal plays, that sort of thing. So having a little bit of life gain in control deck's really good. And Hex is like, not very reliable to do that. So, problem is there's not a ton of good life gain in Standard for a deck like this. I've kind of run into this problem before. This card's really bad. I'm not going to play with it. Oh, there's Dellian Fel. All right, I kind of like that. And it's a control card. It's a Planeswalker. It's good with shared roots. Yeah, I think we have to cut this Lessons from Life. Just play Dellian Fels instead. It's a little hard to cast in that I can't cast it with Great Hall or Cavern. So I only have 12 green to cast it, but then I have the shared roots to go to forest if I need to, so I think it's fine to play a couple. It doesn't work with Quandrix in that I can't play it to cascade into something else, but I can cascade into it. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy to play a Dellian Fel. The only other thing is I kind of need more cheap cards, right? And it should probably be removal. The 2-mana removal spell I like the most right now is probably Into the Hunt. Answer Sirach and Planeswalkers, all that kind of stuff. Bitter Triumph is okay too. I don't really like the cost of Bitter Triumph. And this has some nice upsides, like I said, Sirach, Hexproof creatures, that sort of thing. In fact, Sirach is like one of the green deck's primary resources at this point, so I wouldn't mind just sideboarding a couple more into the hunts. Yeah, I mean, this looks reasonable. I can maybe use more cheap cards if I'm being honest. Maybe I don't need this much card drawing. Maybe I don't need 3 Quandrix. I could just play 2. This gives me 9 dragons. I mean, I'm probably going to be siding out some number of Quandrix a lot of the time. So maybe I just play 2. 2 Cavern of Souls. I mean, it's pretty good. Sure, we'll play 2. End of the Hunt's dead in a lot of matchups. Whatever. We'll try 3. I'll probably conclude it's too much and we'll sideboard somehow, or we'll change the deck. So yeah, the main deck looks pretty reasonable, at least as a starting point. I always end up changing these decks a little bit more. But let's add some sideboard cards. I think Strategic Betrayal is pretty good. What else? Annul is nice. Like a Spell Snare. I like Spell Snare. It's a versatile sideboard card. It would be a decent main board card too, but I don't want too many like counter spells and narrow cards when I'm playing Quandrix because of Cascade. It's really bad to cascade into a counterspell, but I'm okay putting in my sideboard because I think a lot of games I'll be boarding lower on Quandrix or boarding out Quandrix, and I'll just want like some cheap interaction to bring in. Duress is kind of nice because Duress is good with Cascade. If I play against a control deck or something, I can leave in my Quandrixes and then have Duress. So that's like better to have Duress than say Negate, because if I play against control deck and I have Negates with 3 Quandrix and I Cascade and Negate, it's not that good. So Cascade is not as good. It is not like Discover, where Discover, you still got to draw the card regardless. This is like if you can't cast it, then too bad, so sad. I will probably still play Flash Freeze though. It's just so efficient against green, especially if you have some End of the Hunts to deal with the Sirachs. I'd like a Death Mark, I think. It's kind of a good cyber card in this format. And then I need some ways to destroy artifact or enchantments. Play like one of these. There's a Collect Evidence card that's kind of good. Urgent Necropsy. I could play this main, but it's kind of expensive. I already got kind of a lot of expensive removal. But I'd like one of these on my sideboard. It could kill... It's really good against lessons, and some random things. So I have one of those. And what else? Outrageous Robbery is a really nice sideboard card against control mirrors when you're black. Demons, this sort of thing. Speaking of demons, how do I deal with that deck? They have a lot of Cavern of Souls. Demon's pretty good against me. Alright, I'll cut the Death Mark, since I already have a lot of cards for the green matchups, and I'll bring in Intimidation Tactics. And, you know, this card can be okay against green, too. I could see I probably would board it in. And then, yeah, this is nice because it can hit the demons, because the problem with that matchup is their stuff's uncounterable, and it's hard to go after their graveyard because, like, for instance, if I had Lantern, a Ghost Vacuum, or even more Heritage Reclamations to answer Superior Spider-Man, sure, I could exile the demon out of their graveyard, but, like, what if I had a Marang Regent or a Quandrix in my graveyard? Then it's just not that good of an answer. A Dragonologist, even. So, yeah, let's try this. Looks pretty reasonable to me. I'm sure I'll end up changing it. I bet 3 Quandrix is too much. My gut's telling me that I should play 2, but I don't want to. I'm going to start with 3. And thanks everyone for watching. Tune in for tomorrow, okay? I'm going to play this exact list in either on the ladder or I might end up doing a standard event because I think I haven't played the ladder in a while since the new rank, so I'm pretty low rank. Might not get too good of games, but we'll see. Thanks for watching.